week.
All right. Well, what up? What up? Bobo here with BrassReel Brothers. Thanks for coming back for another episode of BrassReel tonight. I got my buddy Peter Alexander joining me right here. What up, Pete?
What up? Can't wait.
Yeah, man, this is going to be awesome. I'm really excited to have you along, dude. It's we've been friends for a while now. We met at the Lamberti's, and we both worked at that restaurant when it was something else, when it was E. Fratelli's, but we didn't know each other. Our paths had just never really crossed. And then we met later on in the Resurgence when one of our buddies bought the place, and then we, have gone our separate ways since then in the industry, but we haven't lost touch, and I'm happy about that. So thanks for joining me, man.
Absolutely, man. It's a pleasure. I've been watching since day one, and I can't get over how awesome it really is. So, yeah, I appreciate you having me on.
Dude, the pleasure's mine, and thank you for that compliment. That's awesome. Real quick, how was your 4th, man? What'd you do? Anything crazy?
Honestly, I drove most of it. Went to Kansas with my girlfriend on vacation. But I guess the coolest thing was I'm a real Western history buff. So I got to go to Dodge City and hang out in Dodge City and check out some of that cool stuff. So.
Oh, nice. And then you had to eventually get out of Dodge.
Exactly. Got the hell out of Dodge, actually at 9 p.m. at night, and drove all the way home 7.5 hours. So it was a little rough at 4 o'clock in the morning, but we made it and everything was cool. So. And
just think that was you actually trying to be good and get back home, not staying up all late at a rave partying.
Right.
Like the old days for both of us, not just pointing anybody out there, but.
Oh yeah.
Well, good, man. I'm glad you enjoyed yourself. That's cool. Did something memorable, not just the regular barbecue. I did the regular barbecue, but luckily it was like 25 of our family members that hadn't got to get together since the pandemic started, and everybody's vaccinated and all that. So it was nice. It was nice.
Cool.
Well, real quick, I was just going to mention this on the cusp of Richard Donner dying 2 days ago, which God rest his soul. That was, I think sometimes a lot of people don't realize how influential this guy was. He was a badass. I know that you agree, right?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Especially people from our time, we're not very far off in age. We're just a few years different, but I mean, we definitely are from the time where Richard Donner movies were coming out and they were the first of their kind. Nothing had come out like Goonies, nothing had come out like Superman before, nothing had come out like Lethal Weapon. Jesus,
Oh man. All 3 of those movies definitely grew up just adoring those movies.
Watching them back, and I mean, so many. And what's funny is Lethal Weapon, it was sort of like that one that I wasn't supposed to be watching, but somehow or another I got away with it. And my dad, I guess, was cool, but my mom wasn't. But the others, I was, they were fine with me watching Superman and Goonies, but the Lethal Weapon I had to sneak, but that was fun,
Yeah, me being slightly older than you, I got to watch that, pretty much free of parental guidance. But Superman, I think, was the first movie my mom ever actually took me on. So that was a big deal. And then Goonies, I mean, you can't beat Goonies. I've watched that today.
Yeah, dude. I mean, you mean you watched it actually today?
No, but I would. Absolutely. I think the last time I saw Goonies was probably about a month and a half ago.
Yeah, man. I definitely say that it's maybe not quite a month and a half ago, but definitely I watched it on my birthday because it's my favorite movie of all time, which was at the end of the March. So, 2-3 months ago, whatever. But the reason I'm saying that as far as bringing him up and dying is I'm not sure if you're familiar with this guy, but Robert Downey Jr.'s dad, senior, died this morning.
Oh, no, I did not know that.
And he was actually a pretty acclaimed director. In fact, he was one of those directors that was sort of pushing the envelope back in the day before it was encouraged to push the envelope. You know what I mean? Like right. He was, in fact, Robert Downey Jr. put a big statement out saying that, hey, my dad was a maverick director. He was one of a kind. He took chances. Unfortunately, people just didn't know who he was as much as, they know the name Robert Downey Jr., but he credits everything to his dad. So I just wanted to bring that up. Died this morning in his sleep at 85. I'm not sure what the causes were, but Downey Jr. is a big deal in the industry, so that's his dad. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, he was the one that was responsible for Boogie Nights, was he not?
As far as making the movie?
Uh-huh.
No, that was a Paul Thomas Anderson film.
Was it? Okay.
Not saying that he didn't have something to do with it. He might have had something to do with it, or his character may have been in the movie.
Actually, I think you're right. I think that's what it was.
That's probably what it was. I'd have to do some research on that, but that makes sense. That
Right.
Downey Senior. But man, that movie right there, man, is just not to get off on a sidetrack, but that's one I think that obviously in film fanatics and film fans, they address how good it is, but I think some people not knowing what the movie is just think it's some sort of smutty, nasty film idolizing pornography, which that's not at all what it's about.
Oh no.
Phenomenal movie though. So what are your thoughts about old Val Kilmer?
Well, I haven't actually heard much about him lately. I mean, I loved him in, a bunch of different movies, different genres of movies, really. He kind of went all across the spectrum a little bit. Of course, Batman, and then what was the one? Ghost in Africa, if I'm
Ghost in the Darkness, yeah.
Ghost in Darkness, yeah. That was a great, great movie. And of course, he played, the icon, The Doors. I mean, that was probably my favorite of his movies. Absolutely.
He was Jim Morrison in that. Like literally it was weird how much he was Jim Morrison.
I have seen film of Jim Morrison and then Val Kilmer and just be like, okay, which one was which? So yeah, he did that. So, I mean, I can't even explain how good he was on that.
Well, that's reason I'm bringing him up is because he's got something that's coming out, and I think it's coming out on Prime. And apparently he was videoing himself way back in the day, like in the 80s, all the time, always carrying around a camera and filming himself. And I guess he was like doing that way before it was the thing to do. So this documentary is like coming out, and it's going to basically touch on his success, his fame, the rise, his significant fall, that a lot of it was due to some of his choices. He had a little bit of a comeback, but then I don't know if you know recently, and I'm not trying to air out any sort of, not trying to make anybody look bad. This is just what is really going on with Val Kilmer, is that he just now is recovering from throat cancer. So this is him on the right now.
Right.
And he can barely, I mean, he can talk, but he can't talk well. And from what I understand, this documentary, he's going to be very transparent and address sort of like where he is now. And so I don't know, in a way, sort of the documentary is kind of a cautionary tale, if that makes sense, of kind of like what to do, what not to do. Not saying that he's, saying don't do what I did, but I think that there's going to be a lot to learn from this. And I think it gets kind of deep at certain moments because, like I said, the guy that we knew, Hollywood, from Top Gun, I mean, he can't, Batman, Jim Morrison. It's just, I feel really bad for the guy, his gift, his skill, which includes his voice, is gone,
That's definitely a sad thing, because he was definitely one of my favorite side characters in just a lot of different movies. I mean, like you said, Iceman, Top Gun. I mean,
Iceman. I'm sorry, I said the wrong thing. Or no, was he Iceman or was he Hollywood? Who was Hollywood?
No, he was Iceman. Iceman, right. And then Hollywood was the who was that? I can't think of the guy's name right off the top of my head, but no, Val Kilmer was definitely Iceman.
Yeah, that's my fault. That's my fault. Play with the boys, the Kenny Loggins song.
Yeah, and him playing volleyball. I mean, come on, every girl in existence was just all over that scene.
Every girl, I was, and I'm straight. But I just wanted to bring some attention to that because I think it's something that some people can find interesting and to shine some light on, the greatness that is Val Kilmer and was Val Kilmer. And like I said, still is, but just don't want people to forget about how awesome that guy was. So I encourage people to watch that documentary.
Absolutely. And Tombstone. Don't forget Tombstone.
Oh, God.
The greatest doc.
Probably my favorite role by him. How did we even forget that? I mean, yes, Jim Morrison, he was awesome as, so many other, but God, Doc Holliday, dude, Jesus.
And I was just there in Dodge City, so I had to go with that one.
Your feet, you got the Tombstone in your blood right now.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Big Nose Kate, and yeah, it was great.
So before we get, I got a few more things to touch on before we get to some of our deep talk, but So do you remember Fangoria magazine?
Fangoria, absolutely. That was the magazine that no parent wanted any child to own at any given time, but
Never.
every kid between the ages of 13 and 17 owned like all of them.
And you could go to Walden Books or B. Dalton Books and go to the magazine section and read it when your parents were in some other store. And that's the only way, you could legally get away with that magazine, because they might let you watch movies, but they damn sure wasn't letting you have in these smut magazines just glorifying gore around the house.
Not at all, not at all. And actually, the one you have up, I actually still own, which is the one with Jack Nicholson and The Shining in it. It was, oh my God, such a great magazine.
Well, this is how you got your horror news back then. This is how you, before any internet, anything, this is how you knew that there was a new Friday the 13th, or that, yes, the Shining was coming out with Jack Nicholson. Anything like that, you'd see glimpses of shots on set, but that was how you got your info.
Yep, absolutely.
Well, so Fangoria, reason I'm bringing them up is they are getting into the film business with their first film called Satora. So I'm going to read you the description of this and you tell me what you think. Inspired by a Lost Malay 1964 horror film, Satora Harima Jadian, the upcoming creature feature, Satora, centers on a tyrannical shaman who puffs up the threat of supernatural half-man, a half-tiger, as a means of preserving his feudal control. So it's about a half-man, half-tiger creature feature. What the hell?
So like a werewolf kind of thing going on.
Yeah, but like a were-cat.
Right.
So I don't know. I'm curious to see what's up with that. There's no other like I don't know the stars. I don't know anything like that. I don't know what's going on with it except the name and what it's about. But, if Fangoria is making a movie, I'm there.
I'm totally there. Totally there.
I mean, I'm not sure. Go ahead.
Are they still doing the magazine at all?
They are, but only quarterly.
Okay.
So every 4 months you get one, every 3 months you get one, which is cool. But I mean, it used to be every month, but people don't buy magazines anymore.
Very true.
I think they still have a web presence that's fine. And, you still will read. These days, I think that what Fangoria has become like is more like you read comments or reviews about something and you'll see at the bottom, so-and-so, Fangoria magazine. They're more of an outlet rather than an actual news magazine. They still are, and they're still a company, but I think that they just kind of play in their, you'll get like leaks from somebody that works at Fangoria magazine about a new movie. And next thing you know, that's in Variety or in Deadline. You know what I mean? I think that
if Fangoria is involved in a movie about gore, I mean, who else could do it better?
Yeah, I got to see what their whole career has been based on showing off gore. So hopefully, it's something to be worth. Did you see Army of the Dead on Netflix?
Not yet, but it is on my list. I haven't really been on Netflix a whole lot lately because some of the stuff that they've been coming out with is just kind of
it's so hit or miss, man.
Yeah, I am a big fan of the star. Who's going to be the star? Batista. I'm a really huge fan of his, and I do know that he's leaving the MCU after the next movie, so I think that this would probably be a good match for him.
Yeah, I could see him. He's getting involved with some other stuff. This, I did watch it. I won't say too much about it because I don't want to give anything away for you. I do feel like it's a mixed bag. I'll tell you this: Zack Snyder directed Dawn of the Dead in 2004, which I thought was a phenomenal remake, a cool, fresh take. If you're expecting that movie, then you're going to be disappointed because that's not what this is. So with him doing that, I can appreciate him doing something different, but it feels more like an MTV video than a zombie movie.
Yeah, that happens a lot, unfortunately, these days. Is everything is just so, I guess the word's glamorized for it, and so I wouldn't go into it expecting a whole lot, but I do expect the stereotypical kind of zombie-ish kind of movie.
I feel like they focus a little too much on some of the comedy, and other elements that those elements work well in horror. But if you start focusing on it too much and forgetting about the horror, then it loses its direction, in my opinion. So, reason I'm bringing this one up is because they've just now announced, and I say just now announced, I think they've announced that, a little bit of a while ago, that they're doing a prequel to that movie. And I thought I had it pulled up here somewhere. Maybe I didn't. I was going to try to show you the cast of him, but I don't have it pulled up. But anyways, old Zach, he's responsible for all this. And so they're doing a prequel, and it's only going to have one of the people that's in the Army of the Dead that's going to be in this, and it's called Army of Thieves. So I don't know how I feel about that. Oh, I think I just found the picture of it, though.
Oh,
No, that's not it. But moving to the next thing, and the reason I really brought all that up is that this is his main thing that he signed a Netflix contract, but this is his new thing that he's got coming out. And
I have heard of this. I haven't seen any trailers for it yet, but I've heard a lot of talk about it on a lot of the sci-fi sites. And supposedly it's supposed to be an interesting take on the future, but I don't know much more about it than that.
I think that's pretty much what anybody knows, honestly. All they're saying is it's going to be a sci-fi future epic, or or a sci-fi epic in the future. I'll say this, man. I think I've been waiting for Zack Snyder to do a sci-fi film. Like, he's such a visual, colorful director. Like, I think that this is where he belongs. Not saying that he hadn't done superhero stuff, but the genre thing, I don't know if the horror thing, I don't know if he's got the horror in his blood anymore like he may have had at one point. But this is what I'm most excited about, even more so of his Justice League cut, which I loved. This, I'm really just curious because it's new, it's original, it's fresh. We're not judging it because we're basing it off of a character we've known for so long. Like even 300, going into watching that, there was a lot of prepared judgment because there were so many people that were so like, Frank Miller is God, and that graphic novel is everything, which I get that. And he did a great job with it. But Watchmen, I think, is the closest thing he's done to anything slightly futuristic, and that was one of his prettier films.
Yeah, Watchmen, I thoroughly enjoyed. Just the take on using history to write the future was brilliant in my eyes.
And slightly eerie.
Oh, absolutely, because you never know. He seems to have like his finger on what is possible in our future because of what we're doing now.
Exactly.
And I think that if he can get into the sci-fi and get the decent budget and not necessarily be 100% CGI, but a lot of character development in it, I think that he could do really, really well.
I agree, man. I think that he's a great director. I just want to see where he goes with this, because to me, this will determine if he's losing steam or not. Because I was okay on Army of the Dead, but anyways,
it will definitely. If he can nail this, then he could definitely have at least the near future in the sci-fi. Because my biggest complaint about sci-fi is always been it's just way too much rehashing of older stuff.
I agree.
I want new, and that's why I love, like The Expanse is one of my favorite sci-fis of all time, just because it's totally new from what you've ever seen before. And it's a lot of science-based and what could possibly happen in the near future. So rehashing the same old stuff it's good sometimes to see the new versions and the news, especially with the additive CGI and all the computer technology. But I want to see, I want to see something new. I want to see something that's going to drive the future. Kind of like Star Trek did when it first came out in the 60s. You saw a lot of things in that show that literally drove the future. Cell phones and things like that.
Yeah, what was science fiction and we watched on TV is now reality.
Exactly. A lot of it is reality, and it's creepy, but at the same time exciting. I want to see that kind of thing and think, maybe that could be possible in the future. So yeah, I'm excited about that. I think that would be a good little show.
Yeah, I think he's got. I mean, I'm not as up to date on The Expanse. I've seen some episodes, and actually, I started watching it with you when you were over here for a minute, and it definitely had my interest. To be honest with you, man, the only reason I haven't gotten any further is because I just have all these other things. Now you just have to pick and choose one. That's what sucks.
Yeah,
Luckily,
there's
you can
so
go
much
back.
content.
I
I'm sorry.
said, luckily, you can go back and watch. But yes, so much content.
There's so much content to go into. So
So check this out, dude. So a couple of days ago, they just released or Scream Factory or Shout Factory. I'm not sure if you know who they are. Are you familiar with them? With the company?
a little bit. Mm-hmm.
So they just release old school DVDs or old school movies on Blu-ray, and they always do some sort of special cover and some sort of special edition that has awesome special features or something like that. It's usually old school 80s, 90s action and horror. That's usually their thing. So they just announced that that these are coming out, the 4K, and we'll see them all individually here in 1 second. But dude, these covers 4K, like I don't even have a 4K player or 4K TV, but I want to get them just so I can have these covers. So look at that part one.
Yeah,
Beautiful,
that's gorgeous.
The house, the car.
One of my biggest complaints about watching some of the older horror flicks like Halloween and Friday the 13th was because they never really could bring them into the future as far as their visual aspects of it. Some of them are still like, especially with Nightmare on Elm Street, there's a bunch that are just still really grainy and old looking, and
even on the Blu-ray they still don't look all of that,
Yeah, exactly. And some of them, I kind of like the fact that they do that, like especially like the original Halloween, the one you're showing now, the kind of dark and grainy and kind
it works for that one.
Exactly. But then when you get into Nightmare on Elm Street, especially part 2, it needs to be updated a little bit.
You can see that they were going on a low budget of even the quality of film they were using at that time, So yeah, some of the stuff needs to be updated for sure. So I'm looking forward to all of those, but I just want to go through these covers real fast so you can see them. Do you have a favorite Halloween movie of all of them at all, or?
Oh, the first one by far. I have always loved the first Halloween movie. Jamie Lee Curtis was just brilliant in that movie. And when I first found out, because I'd watched all the Halloween movies before I realized what The Mask was. And then
I think most people did.
Fanatic, yeah, and then being a sci-fi fanatic, when I found that out, oh my God, that's William Shatner. I got to watch them all again. So I had to watch them all over again. And it gave me a whole new kind of take on it, where I'm looking at it and it's obviously scary, it's obviously creepy, but at the same time you look at that mask and go, okay.
It's just Bill.
Yeah, exactly. But it worked so well, and it just looked so creepy in the time that I couldn't see any other mask being on him at all.
Now, so you know that the mask changed throughout the films, right?
No, I didn't. I thought they were all Bill Shatner.
So this one is still Bill Shatner in part 2. This one was since this one was made in the 80s and it was a while after the 1978 version, this mask had been in a box and it was sort of squished. And so it has a little bit of a different look. It's a little wider in the face, but that's literally because the mask had been squished. So this is actually the same mask from part 1, but just like I said, squished a little bit. But then obviously he's not in part 3, but I still have to show the cover for part 3 because it just looks so badass. And I like part 3 for what it is. It's just not a Halloween movie.
Yeah, but it was definitely a good movie. It just wasn't a Halloween movie.
You can't mess with people like that, man. 2 Halloween movies with Michael Myers and then make something that's not even about any of it and call it Halloween 3.
Yeah.
Stupid.
That was a little retarded.
And they know it. They know they made a mistake. But I'll show you the picture of him now when they did Halloween part 4 when he returns. the main reason that the mask is different is because he got the mask out of a store in the movie because he didn't have the original mask. So if you see, it's totally different. There's a huge forehead. It's just kind of weird. Still looks pretty good. And I like this cover too, because it's showing more like parts of the movie. Still looks good though. Still looks like Michael Myers, but this is the one where they just lost it. This is the one where it's like, what'd you say?
I said, it almost looks like Data from Next Generation.
No, it does. This one does even more so. You ready? This is the one that cracks me up, and everybody's like, all right. And this is a bad movie. This is one of the worst. Look at that.
Oh, Jesus. Wow.
I mean, dude, let's do a little zoom in.
That's crazy.
Look at that guy.
Long hair. That's a little weird looking.
And it's on the outside. Like, I liked it when it was tucked into the collar, when it's on the outside. It just, I don't know, it looks weird. And this movie is so funny and laughable in moments. But I just wanted to go over those. I thought that was kind of cool. I don't think
I've seen that movie all the way through.
If you want to laugh, watch it. But if not, there's nothing really good about that one. It's a black sheep for sure. At least Halloween Resurrection has Busta Rhymes in it, and that's just it's ridiculous, but it's funny watching Busta Rhymes in there.
Yeah, that's.
And he's doing kung fu. He's like doing karate kicks on Michael Myers. I think I put that in one of my reviews actually.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Well, so let's get to some of the main talk that we were going to do, man. We were going to talk about two things. Tomorrow War being the first one. But you know what? Do you want to talk about that one or Loki first?
Oh, I'm all about talking about each. It's either one. Tomorrow War, I just watched again today. So
let's talk about that.
A little more fresh.
Tell me your thoughts real fast. I mean, what overall, what were you expecting from that movie?
Well, honestly, I wasn't expecting a whole lot from it. Chris Pratt obviously is in it, and I do like Chris Pratt mainly because of the MCU. I've seen him in a few other things, but it just seems like it's kind of the same character, I guess, as he is. But if you go into the movie thinking, okay, this is going to be a good alien action flick movie, then you're going to love it. It's got plenty of the action that you're looking for. The creatures in it were outstanding. They're original. Even the way that they fought was original in my eyes, and they really creeped you out. Especially the first time you see it, you don't know what to expect. But if you go into it for the story, it had a great premise. I think the story had a great premise, but I think there were definite parts in the movie that were kind of, I don't know, holy, I guess is the word I'm looking for. There were definite holes in the story at different parts of the movie.
Go ahead. Sorry.
You're fine. So like I said, if you're going into it for, what I think they put it out for, just to be a good action alien flick, then I think you'll like it. It definitely has a lot of, I mean, look at that thing. It's creepy looking.
That was my favorite part about it, dude. Those things I thought were some of the best aliens I'd ever seen in a movie.
Absolutely. And not only just, being new, but I mean, they used the entire body. So it wasn't just them walking around on 2 legs or 4 legs or, using their little bitty stunt arms like tyrannosaurs. But I mean, they used all 8 appendages moving around, attacking with them. It was
2
very
tails.
fluid. Yeah, it was very fluid. The tentacles were freaking nuts looking when you first see them. And they open up, and at first you think, oh Christ, that's the mouth, and then you realize no, that's not the mouth,
dude.
And man, they start shooting the spikes out. I mean, it was great.
And when they show that thing's mouth, dude, and it's breathing right, and it's all like,
yeah, it was freaking creepy.
It puts chills up my spine, man, and it's hard for that to happen to me nowadays. I'm so desensitized, but that one I was just like, oh shit.
Yeah, when he first bit that one army guy in half, I was just like, okay, this is the shit.
And the way he bit him in half too, it's like it didn't just slice it right away. It's like he squeezed him and then it like popped him in half. And it was just like, oh God.
Yeah, he had to do a little chewing to get that sucker in half.
I definitely feel pretty much the same way that you feel about the creatures, man. The creatures were
best part of the movie.
I mean, I honestly, it'd been a long time since I'd seen creatures like that in a film. And I'm glad they weren't like, don't get me wrong. In Alien, the creatures are pretty humanoid. Don't get me wrong. I mean, they are. I'm not going to take that away from what that is, but the fact that they were like hybrid humanoid beasts, and Alien, it is ultimately a beast. I don't know. To me, this was like the scariest one since Alien.
Oh,
absolutely. As far as creature aliens, you know what I mean?
Absolutely, and it was original. That I've seen a lot of Alien movies in my time, and nothing compares to those things. And then when you see, and I'm not sure how much spoiling I'm allowed to do here, but if
you can spoil, man. This is a spoiler review, so spoil it up.
When you see the queen or the mother or whatever you want to call it, it was just, are you serious right now? This is so awesome. I mean, it instilled fear, which I'm not used to having in movies anymore. Because, like you said before, I'm extremely desensitized when it comes to aliens and things like that. But when you see the queen for the first time, you're just like, okay, it wasn't so much different from the males. Like in Aliens, where the queen is this giant thing, and all the little males are just little bitty, assault creatures, I guess, or whatever. But it really just instilled that, okay, this female is in charge. And when you hear her growl the first time in the lab, oh man, you just knew that it's instantly every one of those white spikes was coming from all over around the world to see what was going on.
Oh man, and I love how they made you think that they couldn't swim. That's why they were out in the middle of the ocean. It's like, no, they still have the barrier. It's like, no, they can. And they're, yeah, dude. And the fact that it was like, this ain't no playing. There ain't really even no beating them unless we're extremely strategic and figure out how to one up them, because there ain't beating them. You ain't beating them. You know what I mean?
No, they were already well on their way to losing the war. And it was even more poignant when he's flying in the helicopter for the first time, and they're flying over, I guess, what is the Africans something or other, but they see the White Claws coming after horses and different animals in the jungle.
Oh yeah,
and you're just like, oh my God, they've taken over, and
there's nothing they won't eat
on borrowed time, right? And I did love the fact that there were certain points in the movie where it was obvious foreshadowing, but when she was going over the facts that they didn't really see them coming, there was no radar, there was no nothing, you were just like, well, hell, how did they get there? I mean, this planet is 100% covered with cameras and satellites and all these things. So how could you get an alien race to just pop up in Russia? And so I did like how they worked the ending of the movie into that. That was really cool. And I do love the fact the cast was great. The mom was great. Both daughters were great. The young and the older version was great. I can't remember his name, but the guy from the Farmers Insurance commercials.
Oh, J.K. Simmons. He almost stole the show.
That guy was awesome. When he first spills his drink thinking that his own son is out there to entrap him because of the government, that was fantastic.
Hilarious. He just throws the whole drink at him.
Like, absolutely.
You think I'm wearing a wire?
So great, right? And then and one of I think the most like emotional moments of that entire movie was when he said, kids only come over when they want, or not what it was you never want
kids only come over when they need something,
right? But even before that, the dad was talking about, you never come to me needing anything, and then he just slams his hand down. Pratt slams his hand down and goes, "What are you talking about? Do you just say that to me?
Like the whole time I needed your help,
you for my entire life."
Yeah,
I mean that was a very strong moment of the movie. And then when there was definite foreshadowing in that scene, the very first scene with his dad, but at the same time, it kind of threw you for a loop because from then until the next time you see him, you're thinking, oh, well, dad's going to come back. He's going to figure out how to, send him back to the future so he could save his daughter and things like that. I like that little twist. But that also leads into one of I think the major plot holes in that movie was when Pratt's talking to his future daughter and saying, well, I'm not going to leave here and let you die and things like that. I'm like, I'm really not sure if that's how time works.
Yeah, it's like you have to, dude. Or she,
right.
Yeah, like.
Well, it's not even that. If you're taking the cure, or not the cure, but the poison to kill these animals to the past so you can mass produce it, why wouldn't you use it in the past?
Yeah.
And then change the entire timeline to begin with. But that wasn't really, like, even the daughter was like, I've looked at every choice and what we could do, and this is the only way that we're going to be able to do it. And I'm just like, you need to think about time management a little better.
Yeah. Well, I think, and that was one of my biggest complaints is that I feel like Amazon is really well on their way to making some quality stuff. They've got the TV shows down. They've got the TV shows nailed. They've got the formulas working right. They know how to make a solid show. Playing in the blockbuster world like this, which it was a blockbuster film. They spent a ton of money on it. The effects were phenomenal. I mean, literally the aliens and all the effects were top notch.
Absolutely.
I feel like that they don't quite understand the 101 about making a film before the effects are involved. And I'm talking about, they should have developed the time travel rules a little better. What happens when this happens, all that shit, instead of just spurting out things like you said, like he said, no, I'm going to stay. It's like, what? Hey, wait, did you even just listen to the whole plot of the film?
How does a world with only 500,000 humans left on it come up with a time travel device?
Yeah, little things like that. And yeah, what, even with things being ruined and plants and factories being demolished by these creatures, how did that happen? How did you come up with this device? And then I feel like that they just don't quite get, it's like, I did care about the characters. I did, but I didn't care about them like I would have cared if Spielberg would have been directing it. Like, Spielberg gets how to get you involved in the movie before the effects are even in the equation. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And this one was trying. I think they did a really good job at it. And you can tell this is their first major big blockbuster. Give them like 2-3 more tries and they'll nail it. It's Amazon. They're going to have it down. That was one of my main complaints, is that I could feel like this is their first play. This is their first time in the big boy playpen,
Yeah, exactly. It just seemed like sometimes some of the script was pushed a little harder than it should have been, and then in some places it wasn't pushed at all.
Yeah.
And there were times where you're like, okay, that makes total sense, and then 5 seconds later you're like, wait, what? It was just like, it almost felt like there were more than one writer involved. It seemed like there was like 6 or 7 writers, and they were all just trying to stuff parts into the movie so they could get something into the movie. And but at the same time, the character development, it was good at points, but then at other times you're just like, like the one guy that did 3 tours. I thought he was a great character, and they didn't spend a whole lot of time on his character development, but when they did, you got it. You're like, okay, this guy's dying of cancer. He's got 6 months left to live, and he wants to die his own way. Gotcha.
Yeah, and they kind of shoehorned that in real quickly. They one little moment.
They could have explained it a little bit more, and the dad, I think they could have gone into his background a little bit more. They did go into the Vietnam, him coming back from Vietnam and things like that. And I thought that was
it should have been
part of the movie.
I thought it would have been better as a show, to be honest. Like,
absolutely, like maybe a couple of, maybe even like what Disney's doing. Make it a 6-part, limited.
I think that could have really worked at six episodes. I think it could have worked really well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, man.
Overall, I would definitely give that movie a shot, and as you like to rate them, I would probably give it a B+.
Yeah, I think I'm on
moments. it had its moments, but overall, it could have been a little more structurally sound, I guess.
Yeah, dude. I mean, you took the words out of my mouth. That's exactly how I feel. Just like I said, I feel like give them a couple more shots at some next movies, and they'll get there. It's Amazon. They are doing the whole Lord of the Rings show. I don't know if you knew about
I
that.
have heard about that, and I'm extremely interested about that, mainly because I was watching you earlier, and you were talking about the budget that they were spending on it. I
Nuts,
mean,
dude.
$250 million just to have the rights, and then another 400 million for the first season.
Yeah, I mean they
I mean,
have the
that's
money. It's
just like
Amazon, but Jesus.
right. I mean that show with that kind of money, that show needs to be really good.
I'm pretty sure they have plans to try to create sort of like a what Marvel's done. I think they're going to try to do that with the Lord of the Rings world, with the whole Middle Earth thing. So we'll
I
see.
think would be awesome because expand that universe. I mean, there's so much in that universe from the books that is just not even touched upon in the movies. And I think that if you had longer time, now granted, these movies were, 3 and 4 hours long with the extended cuts, but even that wasn't quite enough time to fulfill some of these characters. Um, I can't remember his name right off my top of my head, but the dwarf. I mean, they could have gone so much farther with his character development instead of just being kind of like the comic relief of the group,
Right.
And
The
I
comic relief
think that
during battle.
yeah, right. I mean, I understood it. I understood what he was trying to do as far as, kind of giving it a little bit of levity because it was a very serious, group of movies. And every once in a while, especially if you're going to sit in a seat for 2.5 to 4 hours, you want a little levity every once in a while. So I understood that. But I definitely think that there was like a big missed opportunity with that character because you really know practically nothing about him. But in the books, they go in depth about that guy and the history of the dwarves and all these other things. And I think it could have added a lot more oomph to the movies.
Well, hopefully they're going to go there with this show. We'll see. Well, let's if it's okay, man, let's try to go move to our last topic because we're running out a little bit of a time. But let's talk about Loki real
baby.
fast, and then we'll hit Star Trek next time we talk. We'll
Yeah,
next
no
week when we
problem.
get back on. But
I have been waiting all day to talk about Loki. So because my girlfriend hasn't seen him yet, and I've just been I want to talk about it so much, and I
let's
can't
talk,
because I don't
dude.
want to spoil anything, right? But
And hey,
to
this is
me,
spoiler. It's out. It's out today, so this is spoiler,
well, I
guys.
mean,
That's why.
I didn't want to spoil anything for her.
Oh no, yeah, I get you, but I'm saying that that's why we saved it to the last. So you go ahead and
Right,
spoil away.
man. To me, and I've seen every MCU movie, every MCU TV show. I enjoy all of them. I have not seen one that I did not like. I was a really huge fan of Guardians of the Galaxy. I thought both of those movies were really great. And to me, those before I saw Loki, those were my favorites. But episode one of Loki just totally shifted my gears to this guy. Uh, the guy that plays him, I had
Tom
it written
Hiddleston.
down. Man, he is perfect for this role. And I actually was doing some digging about him the other day, and he actually tried out to be Thor
Yep.
originally. And I thought, oh, the people in charge were the smartest people ever. No, you don't need to be Thor. You need to be Loki because,
Well, and you can see, like, notice how big he is next to everybody else in the show. He's a beast,
yeah,
dude.
he's a pretty tall guy. I think he's like 6'1", 6'2", something like that. And I want to say even when he's in his Loki outfit, he's wearing heels, so he's like
Yeah,
even taller.
to play with all
But
those big dudes like Chris Hemsworth.
exactly. But I mean, the stars in this show, the cast, the characters, the character development. I mean, it's only a 6-episode series, but you learn so much in just a compact amount of time. And a lot of it is just like little bits here and there that you kind of, if you don't watch it more than once, you kind of miss it. But
Oh yeah, for sure.
To watch the change between the Loki that everybody knows, the god of mischief, the one that, started the war in New York and the whole Tesseract thing, to watch him go from that to what he is now in episode 5 is brilliant. I mean, he's human. You know,
Great character
you look
development.
at him now, he is just more relatable than he's ever been in any of the movies. In the movies, I think he just kind of, even in the Battle of New York with Avengers, he was kind of a bit player. And now that you've put him center stage, you start to realize that, you know, this guy has, yes, he's the god of mischief. Yes, he's supposed to be a quote unquote bad guy, but it's only because of the things that have happened to him in his life, just like any other real life bad guy. You can't just look at a person and go, oh, he's evil. You know, something made him that way. You
Mm-hmm.
know, his experiences, his life experiences made him that way. And you get into the depth of that a little bit in was it Ragnarok when the Dark Elf showed back up, um, and him being adopted and all these other things. But when you start looking at him out of his element, like with the TVA, when he first makes it to the TVA, he just literally is lost. He has no clue of what is going to happen to him, what is going to happen to the world outside of the TVA. He's just like, what is this?
Well, he went to jail, man. He went to prison basically, and that's how it
Right.
feels in
And
real life. You lose all privileges,
exactly.
you know.
You don't know what's going to go on outside those four walls because the only thing that matters is what's inside those four walls at the
Mm-hmm.
time. And then to watch him grow over the last 5 episodes, uh, meeting his equal in Sylvia, or
Sylvie.
Sylvie. Thank you,
Yeah,
Silva
that's our
was
buddy Silva. It's
that's
our
our
fault
other guy.
not to.
But to watch that relationship kind of grow, and because it starts off real, you know, pecky and tentative, and you just don't know whether or not they're going to get along and whether or not they're going to stab each other in the back because that's what Loki does. And then for them to form that kind of bond over time, especially on the 4th episode where, you know, they create the time variant because they fall in love.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's freaking awesome to me.
No, it was
And
great writing. And they were like, "Have you ever seen that many branches?" You know, it's like,
I
and it
mean,
showed all. That's what they say in the show. They're like, "Have you ever
right,
seen
right.
that many branches
Have you ever
before?"
seen that? No, I haven't. And it's just and it now. Granted, I would have liked for them to explain that particular part just a little bit more, why it created so many branches and things like that. But a lot of the questions that you ask throughout the series are slowly getting answered, and it all fits in so great. And I'm trying to look up this. There was the executive producer talked about it a little bit the other day about some of the things that have happened to him that created uh, this version of Loki. And it was just brilliant. I'm trying to look for it, but anyway, the character development for him, the character development for Mobius. I mean, I was never really a big fan of that guy. Every time I see him, I just want to reach up and fix his nose, right? But
Especially
he
in this.
oh my god, it's just it's like they do it on purpose. They
Yeah.
shadowed his face just so much so you can see that crooked ass nose of his. But he works so well for this show.
I think
And
it's his best acting job.
oh, absolutely, by far. By far. It's still you still get some of that old, you know, things from like, you know,
Snarky.
the Wedding Singer and things like that, but
Wedding Crashers.
Wedding Crasher, excuse me. Yes, yes, yes. And but he is so just like especially when him and Loki are interacting together and they're going back and forth being snarky to each other. It's just perfect.
When he's even more of a smartass than Loki is. That's what's so funny.
Exactly. And it's like, wow, Loki's met his match, you
Yeah.
know, or Mobius has met his match. It's they're so good together, and the chemistry they have together on screen is just brilliant. Brilliant. And then even some of the smaller characters, L51, the main guy, brutish guard, and
Yeah.
things like that. The scene at the end of episode 3 when Sylvie showed her past, and just the look on her face, and then when she says, "Oh my God, I was happy." One of the greatest scenes in, I think, any of the Marvel cinematic universe, because she just portrayed how, oh my God, I've been let down, and they have stolen everything from
Yeah.
me without saying a word.
Which
It was
that's what
brilliant.
I'm really curious to see what this is going to tie into, because I feel like all these things are tying into the movies. You know that, like when I say
Absolutely.
tying into the movies, like the consequences of the shows bleed over into the film. So like Wanda
Absolutely.
will be seen in the movies next as more of a witch. Loki, like Captain America now is going to be Sam. So next time we see Captain America in a movie, it's him. And they did that in the show. This one, I'm wondering what is going to happen to Loki that will roll over into the films.
I have my own theory about that, but I'm not really sure, because so far, every time I've come up with a theory about this show, the executive producer just shoots that shit right out the window. So, but the way everything is playing out, the different versions of variants of the same variant, particularly Loki, it's almost leading me to believe that, what if a variant of Loki is actually in charge of the TVA? Because think about, what is the one thing Loki's always wanted? Power, and now this is the ultimate power in the universe. Yeah. And
Yeah.
I have other theories too, but like, especially with the head judge, oh God, I can't remember her name, but
The girl.
the black girl, she definitely knows what's going on. I don't care what she's trying to throw off.
Oh, she knows.
She knows exactly who's in charge, and honestly, it could be her. Um, Maybe not necessarily her in particular, but because it has to do, I know it's going to have to do with why she took Sylvie in the first place.
So,
Because, go ahead.
so there are theories out there that are saying that. So when we saw the timekeepers, they ended up being cyborgs.
Right.
There are theories that, but also when you notice, when you see they show like the statues of the timekeepers and they'll keep showing them like up close, they're only showing the face of one of them, and it's the one in the middle on the statues. They're not.
No. Well, they show all three in
But
like the
when they
second episode.
no, they show them. But what I'm saying is when they focus in, they're focusing on the middle one.
On the
Every
main one,
time,
yeah.
that's always focusing on that middle one, and none of those timekeepers that were cyborgs looked like any of those faces on the statues. So the one in the middle, there's rumors going along that could be Kang the Conqueror, who is the next villain in Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania movie, which they do the time thing. There's rumors that is Kang the Conqueror in disguise. I don't know how true that is, but
I don't know how Kang would really fit into the whole timeline thing.
me either.
But
There's just
I could see, something like that being, but I do know that whatever the people are or person is that created the TVA is definitely going to be the next big bad guy.
if not the next
Because
big bad guy, the next pre-big bad guy, like the one right before.
a henchman, right, of Thanos,
Right.
The Thanos type character. But even the way I look at it, they're in charge of the timeline of a time itself. So to me, that doesn't really scream henchman. That screams big to do.
Oh,
Right.
For sure.
So I'm still kind of leaning towards the fact that they might not even come out with who it actually is. It might be kind of like when you saw Thanos for the first time. You really didn't catch all of him. It was like a quick glimpse of what his helmet and his gauntlets when he's
And like
sitting
his
on
chin.
and then his chin, because the chin's what gave it away. But you still, at the same time, were like, well, okay, they didn't show all of it, so it's possible.
And then they kept on teasing it after movie with nothing ever happening, and then it finally happens in Endgame.
Right. So I think that with WandaVision ending the way it did, that's definitely going to tie into the next. My brain just went blank.
Well, it's Doctor Strange.
Doctor Strange movie, and then Captain America is definitely going to go back into reconnecting the Avengers, but also what I think is reconnecting the new Avengers, right? So it's not going to be, the classic Thor, Hulk,
No.
uh, kind of Avengers. It's going to be the new generation of Avengers, and I really think that you're going to find a lot of that out when on Friday when Black Widow comes out.
Oh, I'm going to see it
Um,
tomorrow night, baby. 5 o'clock.
and Black Widow is going to introduce you to the new Black Widow, which is her sister,
Yeah, White Widow.
White Widow. And I think that that's going to start the cascade of the new Avengers.
Well, we'll
Uh,
see Captain Marvel and a lot more, and then in this new Thor movie, Jane Foster is becoming Thor. So like the girl, they're doing all kind. We're going to see a lot of stuff. We got She-Hulk happening. We got Moon Knight coming along. We got all kind of stuff happening. So
yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what goes on.
yeah, I'm just hoping that we don't get too. I just hope they don't fizzle themselves out by a little oversaturation. That's my only worry. But so far, so good, and I'm happy. So
Yeah. So far, I like the fact that they're only doing small little 6 episode seasons. I think WandaVision was 9, if I'm remembering correctly. But the smaller seasons and packing a little bit more into those smaller seasons is a great way to move along. And with Loki, there's just, especially in the last episode, you get bombarded with Loki, and I mean not just one Loki, but hundreds of Loki.
oh yeah, I
Even
loved
the
it.
alligator. The alligator was fantastic.
I want to know
I'm
what
not gonna
happened.
lie.
And before we go, I want to know what happened to the alligator and the Viking Loki.
The original Loki.
Well, no, the original one, he got killed. Not the original one.
So, well,
Excuse me.
what
I'm talking
they're
about
calling
like
the old-fashioned Loki.
old fashioned, like the older Loki. Looked
Yeah.
like he got killed, but I'm talking about the alligator and the kid and the Viking. What happened to them?
So the Viking, from what I understand, was still in the fight when they left. So I'm assuming that he's either still fighting or died because of the fight, because he was the one that actually brought all the other Lokis to their little lair or whatever.
Yeah.
The kid, I'm not really sure what happens to him. And the alligator, I think that was honestly just put in kind of as a gag kind of thing.
Yeah. I loved it though. For some reason,
But
I
it
loved
worked
that
perfectly.
gator.
Oh, it worked perfectly, especially when the gator's roaring and the old-fashioned Loki's like, no, he's praying.
Yeah.
Like, oh, alligator agrees with me. No. He's
He's
praying.
praying.
He's praying because he knows it's not going to end well. And so I don't really think that we're going to get a whole lot of information on all those guys. I'm really not quite convinced that the old-fashioned Loki is dead, because we don't know what happens to people that get eaten by a lion or whatever his name was. So
Yeah,
you
I
don't
drift.
really quite know. So he might still pop up in the last episode. It's possible.
We'll see.
Before we get too long into it, the one thing I do want to talk about is the variants of Captain America and Iron Man, because there is a shit ton of information on the internet talking about, well, if Loki is a variant because he stole the Tesseract, then how does that not make Captain America and Tony Stark variants? So it's entirely possible that we might get a small cameo in the last episode with these two guys. Because when I was reading the executive producer not too long ago, she didn't say no. She didn't say, no, that's not going to be possible. But and the way she was talking about it, she was definitely being very nonchalant, I guess is the word for it, but very sneaky at the same time. So it's entirely possible that we get an entire variant universe, maybe even a movie about it, because there is this. If he didn't steal the Tesseract, then he wouldn't have been a variant. But when they talked about it at the beginning of the movie, all of that was supposed to happen, except for Loki stealing the Tesseract. So that kind of creates this time loop and this variant loop of, well, okay, so how is that supposed to actually happen on the timeline if what Loki did wasn't, right? So there's a lot of talk on the internet about that, and I'm very interested to see episode 6 and if any of that comes comes to fruition.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be surprised if they did, but I wouldn't be surprised if they did too. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah, I think it's a very interesting way to look at the multiverse with this whole timeline thing. So I'm interested. I'm very, very interested about episode 6. I cannot wait. I mean, I'll
it'll
take
be
the day
setting.
off
It'll
for
be
that.
setting up for something. It'll be setting up for something for
Absolutely.
sure. But man, I have to cut us off though because I got to get this thing out. So
Yeah, absolutely.
thanks for joining me, man. That'll do it for this episode of BrassReel Tonight, guys. Thanks for listening in on with us. And hey, if you want to do this again next week, man, I know you got your schedule coming up and all that's changing, but let me know when you're available. And we can always do it.
Man, I'm all about it. I got so much I could talk about with sci-fi. It would take me years to get it all out.
Well, I'll dedicate my sci-fi stuff to you then more.
Absolutely. Cool. But don't get me wrong, I'm into the 80s too, brother. Me,
Oh
I'm with
yeah,
the
no, we'll
80s
do
and
it.
the
We can
90s,
do it
man.
all. We can do it all.
Oh
But
man.
all right, man. Well, hey, thank you so much, brother. And signing off here. Y'all have a good one. And also, one more thing, guys. If you have anything that you want to ask me about or anything like that, just I don't have things set up on the chat yet. So email it to BrassReelBobby@gmail.com. If you want me to address anything, you want me to talk about something, just send it to here. So appreciate that, guys. And
Appreciate you inviting me in, brother.
oh, sorry, say that again.
I appreciate you inviting me into your home for a little hot, fresh popcorn.
Hey, thank you, brother. And anytime, let's do it again. And much love. We'll talk soon.
Much love, brother.
All right, man. Peace.